Hello! Today I'm sharing some tips that will help you in creating your model in VRoid Studio, and these are some things that you may or may not already know depending on how long you have been using VRoid. So you can use the timestamps below to skip to parts that you are interested in. So let's get started. Okay, color calibration. This is something that I use in very specific situations, and I'll explain it in a while. But how you can find this thing that I'm talking about is in Edit Texture, and you see here, use color calibration. Basically what it does is that it limits the hues that you can use based on the color that it is calibrated to. So once you turn it on, the only thing that is within your control will be how dark or how light the hue is. So basically the shade. Yeah, I'll show you what I mean right now. So if I have a new layer, okay, and I turn on use color calibration, do you see that the face just turned brighter? Before, after. So what is happening here is that this default design layer, which has a painted face, a painted skin tone, is being color calibrated to this chosen color here. Okay, so if I change this color, yeah, you see what I mean? Okay, so if you paint using this color calibration, what happens is that if you choose any colors here, it's not going to affect how it actually shows up here. So basically, if you choose a bright blue and you try to shade the skin with blue for some reason, you see that it doesn't show up as blue. It actually shows up as this color here that you have chose is being calibrated to this. Yeah. So if you choose a darker color like black, right? You see that it doesn't show up as black either. You can see the real color over here, but when it's on the model, it's being calibrated. So for a dark color like black, it's basically this calibrated to this dark color. So basically what this does is that the darkest color that can show up is based on this, and the lightest color that can show up is based on this when you use color calibration. And so I don't really recommend this function to anyone for face shading, because it will make the face look very flat if you are limited to this palette here, you know. So I'll say it's only really beneficial to people who, you know, you are really bad with colors or you have no experience with painting, so you might have a hard time choosing the right color to paint the face with. Yeah. Okay, now to explain the very specific situations where I'll actually use the color calibration tool. So let's see, say in iris, if you have a texture like this in grayscale, it will be very easy for you to change the color of the object just by using color calibration. So let's say I want the eye to be blue. Yeah, we can adjust how dark, how saturated, how light it is from the colors calibration tool, because your texture is in grayscale. I wouldn't actually recommend using it for your iris, because I think it's just better to have more colors than one. So because if you use color calibration, you are kind of, yeah, again limited to the hue that is chosen. But yeah, so the situation where I'll actually use it is in something like an object where I want it to be available in different colors. So let's say, okay, so I made a beanie previously using hair. I'll show you how it looks. It looks so funny on the standard view, right? Okay, so I go into Edit Texture and the beanie. Okay, I'll show you the beanie texture, which is just, you know, grayscale texture. So because it is in grayscale, I can now change the color of the beanie very easily from the main color. So I turn it on, and ta-da! Now it can be in any color I want it to be. Yeah. So this is the kind of very specific situation where I'll actually use the color calibration tool. Yeah. Okay, proportions. So this is very subjected to your own taste, but in my personal opinion, I don't really like how the VRoid standard proportions look. And if you have like very specific kind of face that you want to go for, it is very good for you to reference, you know, look at faces that you actually like and see how, let's say, how big the eye is in relative to the ears, to the nose, you know, the distance between the eyes, the nose and the lips, this kind of thing. These little details will really make a difference to your model. So for example, for me, I don't really like how big the ears look in VRoid Studio, like the standard ears, even though the ear size here is actually a perfect ear size, I would say, where the starting of the ear actually matches the eye and the ending of the ear matches the nose. Yeah, but maybe because it's not very obvious where the nose ends when you look at a VRoid model from the front, unless you have a very obvious looking nose like mine. You might want to make the ear size smaller. Yeah, and it will look better. Yeah. And one other thing that I really recommend you doing is in body, for your neck length over here. Okay, so now it looks normal, right? This is default 0. It looks normal here, but once you start making the outfit for your VRoid, you might realize that your neck starts looking very short. Okay, let's say you put on something like a blazer. Okay, now you see she kind of looks hunchback, like her neck becomes so much shorter because she's wearing a blazer now. And it's actually due to the fact that the clothes in VRoid doesn't actually rest on the body, like it hovers on top, so it makes your neck look shorter. So what I mean by hover on top, okay, let's see. Okay, you see, if you look from the side, right, you can see that the clothes are actually, you know, kind of like floating on top. Here, there's a gap here. So because of this, if you wear clothes like the blazer, you cover even more of your body and you end up looking like you have a very, very short neck. So what I recommend is lengthening the neck length. Yeah, so you don't look hunchback. Yeah. This is one thing I do to my own model as well. On texture coloring. So here, this is my own model, and I'm using it to explain what I mean by being more experimental on texture coloring. This is more of a stylistic choice, I would say, so you can just listen, but you don't have to execute it if you don't want to. Yeah, so my style is very different from, say, the 2D kind of style. If you want to make a 3D model that looks like a live 2D model, then maybe this is not the best way to do it. Yeah, so basically what I mean by being more bold on your texture coloring is, if you look at my face, I have very obvious shadows and highlights. So if you just look at my nose, you can see that I drew some shadows under the nose to indicate where the nose ends, and I also drew highlights on top of the nose. So I have a very three-dimensional looking nose. Because for VRoid, if you don't color it like that, you only see the nose from the side. You can only see it when you're not facing the front. Yeah. But most of the time when you're, say, you're streaming or you're recording videos, you only be looking at the front. So for me, I like to have a very distinct nose. I like my features to look obvious. Yes. If you know how to put on makeup, then I think this is kind of like the same principle as like putting on makeup on your own face. So you have like eyeshadows and you try to create this aegyo here. Yeah, and you know, you highlight your nose, contour your nose bridge. Yeah, so if you just think about it that way, that it might be easier. I also shaped the chin here, over here, to define my chin, and also my jaw. This is one tip I would say, where you should match the shading of your jawline to your ear so it connects smoothly. Yeah. The thing is, if you don't do it, let me show you on the plain model. Okay, so this is the plain model, and I prepared a skin for tutorial use. So edit texture. Okay, so if you look here on the texture side, you'll see that the ears are separated from the jaw here. So when you shade, you have to be conscious of matching the shading here to the ears. If not, what happens is this. So basically the shading stops here, and the ears are not shaded. Yeah, so it looks like it's detached, you know. So if you match the shading, there wouldn't be like a line. This side is matched. There wouldn't be like a line making the ears look detached. You can see the difference. Yeah. Lastly, for texture coloring, I would recommend you to actually change the color of the mouth inside. Over here, mouth inside. So you don't see it here, and you can just go to expression editor and go to R. Yeah. So normally when you're editing the texture, it might be quite easy to just forget about the mouth inside because you don't see it when your expression is at neutral. But if you go to R, and I'll show you how it looks if I was using the default one on my model. Yeah, so my model has a more dull, you know, less saturated skin tone. So if I was using this default one, which is very warm and saturated, it looks very weird on my model. So I made a custom one for my own model. In my old video, I think like a year ago, I did say it was not really like compulsory for you to change your mouth inside. But now I think it's quite an important detail because when you speak, it's very obvious. Like you can see my mouth inside now. Yeah, so don't forget about this. This will be it for today's video. It has been just, you know, some small tips about the details in making your VRoid model. But if it has been helpful or you learned something new, do let me know in the comments. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!